Let's begin by telling you that Inspector General of Police Kayode Egbetokun has ordered a ban on the participation of local security outfits, including the Western Nigerian Security Network known as Amotekun and the Vigilante Corps, in a move to secure the upcoming Ondo governorship election. In a statement on Sunday, police spokesman Muyiwa Adejobi announced the deployment of specialized police units, including the Special Intervention Squad, Police Mobile Force, Counter-Terrorism Unit, Special Protection Unit, Explosive Ordnance Disposal, and the K9 Unit to provide comprehensive security. Aerial patrols using police helicopters and gunboats on waterways as well. The IGP also issued a stern warning to any political thug or individuals attempting to disrupt the election scheduled for November 16, 2024, which will see no fewer than 17 political parties on the ballot. In the meantime, political parties and candidates in Ondo State have signed a peace accord ahead of the 16th November governorship election. The signing, which took place on Friday at the International Culture and Events Center in Akure, the state capital, was organized by the National Peace Committee, headed by former head of state Abdusalam Abubakar. Some of the parties present at the signing of the peace accord include the All Progressives Congress, People's Democratic Party, Labour Party, Action Democratic Party, and Zenith Labour Party, among others. Speaking at the event, the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Mahmoud Yakubu, urged the candidates and their parties to commit to a peaceful election.
The Nigerian Peace Committee that Ondo state elections will be free, fair, credible, and peaceful. And every one of us to ensure that we will maintain the peace in the country. Because if there is no peace, there is no country.
The National Peace Committee accepted our request to devolve the signing of the peace accord beyond the presidential election to include off-cycle governorship elections in view of the tension and sometimes violence associated with these elections in the past.
Ondo State has been a peaceful state. In fact, even during this campaign, it's been peaceful. And you don't enjoy this in most states when election is almost about a week to the D-Day. But today we are enjoying relative peace.
The national leader and presidential candidate of the new Nigeria's People's Party in the 2023 general election, Rabiu Kwankwaso, says Nigerians, especially Southeasterners, must be vigilant in selecting their leaders come 2027. Addressing some party faithfuls at the party secretariat in Bende Road in Umuahia on Saturday, Kwankwaso regrets that the citizens are living in penury in the midst of abundance. He therefore called on people to reject such persons with tendencies to impoverish them in the next general election.
Of the serious problems that we have, problem of insecurity, problem of economy, even political issues everywhere, and of course, hunger. We have seen Nigerians looking for food in dustbins and refuse dumps. I believe, as somebody who has been in the system for some time now, that Nigeria has enough resources for each and every one of us to share. Unfortunately, we have so many greedy people at the top. They want to take everything, keep for themselves, spare very little for election days. I believe today, Nigerians, especially people from the Southeast, should know better that electing, supporting bad people to be at the head of affairs of government is too dangerous to do. I believe 2027 will be a very different year, election year for all of us.
Hundreds of support groups of President Bola Tinubu converged on the nation's capital, Abuja, expressing displeasure over their abandonment by the president in the appointments of his federal cabinet. The Director General of the Confederation of the All Progressives Congress Support Groups, Professor Kailani Mohammed, says that despite their sacrifices during the general elections, which secured the victory of the president, they have been left in the cold. He says that only close allies of the president, referred to as Lagos boys and other persons from Yoruba extraction, have been compensated by the president.
It is now about 2 years in office. He is in office, but has shut the door against the whole of APC support groups nationwide. He has ignored several of our written and verbal communications to him, which we've been sending since he assumed office. No reply, no response, nothing. It is an irony that President Tinubu has distanced himself from us, that foiled Congregate Conshine. We did our best to bring him, and he won at the polls. The 180,000 polling units were manned by the support groups, and he won election. So we are calling on him to consider his stance and look back, so that we will form a good government that will deliver the dividends of democracy to Nigerians before 2027.
The Abuja School of Social and Political Thought has called on the judiciary to demonstrate courage by taking decisive action against election results showing clear signs of manipulation. Now, the call was made during the second edition of Deepening Democracy series held in Nigeria's federal capital, where pro-transparency advocates and public policy experts gathered to address Nigeria's electoral challenges. Our correspondent, Joshua Marai, brings us more details in this report.
The Abuja School of Social and Political Thought hosted another edition of its Deepening Democracy series in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. The event brought together members of several pro-transparency organizations who called for urgent reforms so as to overhaul the election results coalition and transmission process managed by Nigeria's Independent National Electoral Commission.
As we head to future election, not Ondo will not solve what I'm going to propose, because the system is still the system now. As what presents to us an opportunity is the electoral reform. We need a huge organizing, the convener leading all of us, taking it that we need to reform the election result process.
The ultimate is that results will be declared of the polling unit, transferred electronically, and we know, and we should use collection as a procedure to subvert real results that are harvested at the polling unit.
They also challenged the judiciary to have the courage to uphold electoral integrity, urging the courts to take firm action against manipulated results.
There has to be a limit. There has to be a no-go area for the courts to take a decision on the outcome of an election. Because gradually we are beginning to see a situation where it is the courts that decide the election, not the people that decide the election. And this has to stop.
The court should have the courage to reject results that show clear that they are manipulated. The court may not pronounce a winner. The court can remand those results to INEC to take consequential action. If the courts cancel elections where politicians have spent billions to rig, they will be less inclined to bribe either INEC or police for electoral results, knowing that ultimately those results can be cancelled.
They also cautioned against appointing officials from Nigeria's Independent National Electoral Commission who will undermine transparency in election management in the country. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imarayi.
Nigeria's democracy could gain strength from lessons in the recent U.S. elections. Analysts suggest Nigeria can adopt stronger transparency practices, improve voter access, and enforce strict checks on misinformation. Now in the U.S., higher voter turnout and orderly transitions highlight the benefits of an engaged electorate and secure voting processes. Nigeria can learn from the U.S. model of early voting, digital access to voter information, and fortified election systems to prevent tampering. Analysts believe these measures can help build trust and increase voter participation in Nigeria. Additionally, educating citizens on the importance of voting and reducing barriers for youth in rural communities could deepen democratic roots, ensuring Nigeria's democracy is more inclusive and resilient. To discuss this, we're joined by Dr. Sam Ahadi, Director of Abuja School of Social and Political Thought and former Chairman of Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission. Good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us on the news, sir.
Good afternoon, and thank you.
All right, so can you tell us what specific aspects of the U.S. election process could be most beneficial for, strengthening Nigeria's democracy?
For me, I think it's the strength and the commitment of the parties themselves, okay? So you could see that before even the ballot, the political parties were very active in trying to litigate some of the decisions by electoral bodies across the districts. So the U.S. election is decentralized. There is no national electoral body that conducts election. There are federal rules and state rules that determine how each election will be conducted in each state. And so the intersection of federal and state laws could be very complex. But what is clear is that you see preparedness. For example, the Republicans had about 500 lawyers on ground, not in the offices in Washington, on ground in each battleground states. They had about 230,000 poll watchers in battleground states, meaning that any of those processes were monitored and they could immediately go to court. So you see Nigerian politicians go to court after results have been declared winner, will go to tribunal. That's not electoral litigation. You start from the rules, the way the INEC interprets the rules. You start from how the process of voting happens, and on the day of voting, there are cases filed in the county electoral boards and in courts, and watchfulness. So vigilance is one to have to learn. The idea that you just allow INEC to go through all the process and finally go to court, 21 days, prepare a case is bad. The second thing we should learn, the integrity of the electoral process is underwritten more by interplay of rules, civic vigilance, and demand and supply of accountability. So there's no presumption here that the electoral officers are saints. Oh, they're going to deliver for us. There is actual demand for openness, accountability, and following the rules. And there's willingness all the time, even by voters themselves, to challenge that. I think the third thing I'll point out that is very clear in how this process happened is that everybody seems to know exactly what the rules are. So it's not just like, okay, what's the rules for early voting? What's the rules for which ballot to be counted? What's the rules for timeout for delivery of mail-in ballot? So the rules are very clear and well known ahead of time. And so there's small discretion. There's no discretion for electoral officers. So the notion of
so what about when it comes to voter turnout? How can we improve, our engagement and also voter turnout, especially among the young people and the rural communities?
There are ways to do that. First, the electoral system must be credible. I mean, everyone who voted in the US knew that the results would be what they voted for. I mean, it would be a rare case. In Nigeria, the fact that INEC could change the results, as we saw in Edo, where we see everywhere, the fact that the results posted real time on the IRF can be discountenanced does not give confidence. So the lack of confidence is the number one thing. The number two thing is the nature of the campaigns. Look at the campaign where the candidates went 4 or 5 times to background states, went to counties, went to small areas, went with orchestra, with music, with star, with endorsements, everybody with proxies who went to speak for them. So you can see the intensity to win those votes, and those intensity mobilize. 3, they actually go out to get the voters out, because it's a long period of voting. They keep on messaging, they knock at doors, asking people, vote, 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 not necessarily vote for us, but vote. So we can't improve voter turnout if our elections are shambolic. There's no credibility about the election. People already predict who will win. The ruling party must win. In that case, people don't bother. And secondly, if politicians really focus on how they will rig election, which the incentive structure aligns for, like I said before in some of my presentation, you rig, you bribe court, bribe police, you get it done. So if that's incentive, then the politicians have no incentive to go to the people, to mobilize them, to encourage them to vote for them, because they're going to win through other mechanics. So we need to restore the integrity of electoral system. Then the people, the young ones who have confidence, then politicians will be the ones who will go to the young people through messaging, through using endorsement, actors, movie stars.
All right, Dr. Ahadi, you just talked about, politicians going to the people through messages, but, one of the challenge that is being faced, during elections has to do with misinformation. What steps should we take to combat this during elections, and, how effective have, the measures that were taken before been?
3 things about misinformation. I think the answer to misinformation is better information. You watch the political system in the US. Each time there's a misinformation, the other parties are there to counter with right information. 2, the media had, their own filters, and they were real time, saying this is not true. Of course, we saw deep fakes, we saw videos that were probably altered. But again, the key thing about misinformation is that people should be willing, institutions, government, agencies, media, everybody, to counter misinformation with right information. Information is ecosystem. You don't smash and kill. It doesn't, okay, let's kill people who have incentive to carry out misinformation. You overcome them by always providing the right information and dictating, and of course, exposing those misinformation. But the point is, you have to be actively involved in the political cycle, monitoring messages, watch what's being posted on all the websites, on all the social media platforms, so that you'll be able to track and expose misinformation. We are not fully focused on all this. And if we're not focused on this, we will have misinformation, destroy our political system. So I think vigilance on the part of media, on the part of government, on the part of citizens, and the part of political parties themselves, who have to contend against each other. So if Party A is bringing fake video or fake information, Party B should be able to refute it and provide the proper perspective in order that citizens and voters themselves will be able to recognize what is true and false information.
All right, Dr. Ahadi, now while the report was actually playing, we did see a clear difference between how elections are carried out in the U.S. and also in Nigeria. The U.S. was more digital, and then Nigeria we saw a manual way of carrying out elections. Now, how can we improve digital access to voter information, and also how does it impact the transparency and trust of our electoral process?
I think the first thing is to decentralize electoral results. There's no reason why INEC should be the only person to announce results. Look, INEC has improved on digital technology. So we now have investment in IRF, in electronic transmission. So it should be very clear that once elections votes have been cast and counted, and agents have signed off, those results should be uploaded straight away. And then there should be cumulative portals. So if the election for local government, from all the various wards, you can see the tabulation. So as new votes come in, it updates you on the margin who's leading. So this is a way to make it transparent. So anybody, any media house can sit on their technology center and aggregate and decide to call election. So we must decentralize the process of election, reporting. It should be INEC who must go through a ceremony, and get airtime and finally announce what's evident. And in the process of doing that, they alter the results. There should be nothing like collection of results. results can be electronically collected. As soon as they're being posted from polling units, they are getting tabulated. They're getting tabulated when it's now mathematically impossible for results to shift because of remaining votes. Then the newspapers, the television houses like News Central can call that result immediately. So that's the way to go with technology, so that there's little human interference and little use of discretion to distort voting. Real time from polling units, they go to a central server, a central point, everybody sees it, it aggregates as more votes comes in. When that vote is completed, the result is clear. Or when the winning margin is so large that mathematically nothing else can be done, even if the other units are still coming, then the result can be called. That's the way we bring, transparency and make sure that people follow it and people know that, look, they understand what's going on.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Ahadi, for your time and for speaking to us.
Thank you very much.
We'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll tell you that the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency uncovers cross-border syndicates. Stay with us. Nigeria's Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa, announced changes to age requirements for university admissions, lifting the 18-year minimum age for now. Speaking in Abuja, Alausa stated that the age requirement for the West African and National Senior School Certificate Examinations, WASC and NECO, remains at 18, a rule that is being enforced by WAEC and NECO as part of existing regulations. He clarified that under a grace period agreement with JAM, students below 18 will still be eligible for university admission this year. However, from next year, the 18-year age requirement will be strictly enforced. Exceptionally gifted students under 18 will be exempt from this restriction, allowing them to take the exams early. To discuss this, we're joined by an educationist, Jolawo Olufumilayo. Hello, thank you for joining us, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
All right, good afternoon. Now, how do you think, how can the age limit, talking about the 18-year age limit requirement, how can the lifting of this, for university admissions impact the education system in Nigeria, both positively and negatively?
Okay. Like you said, it has both its positive and its negative impact on education. For now, I believe the threshold should take like 3-4 years, because we have a lot of people in grade school right now that at 15, 16, they will be eligible to write their school leaving examination. So if the ban is effective by next year, we're going to have a lot of backlog in students, that would have finished school and cannot take the examination. I will know the negative effects of that down the line. So, well, I think the government is thinking about it, and I think in due time, let's just see what happens. If the threshold will take some time, more time, at least 2-3 years before that happens. As we know, in other climes, we have age boundaries where you can get into university or college and things like that. But we've had that age reduced for a long time in Nigeria. So we need to be very strategic about it, so it doesn't have a very big downfall on the educational system. Another thing we could do is to introduce a gap year kind of thing, where the students that will have written SSC at that point, and they're not up to 18, would have something like A-levels. We can introduce that too, that they can have like a year or so to study, then enter university at the right age, or maybe 200 level, etc. There are ways we can go about it, but just stopping people abruptly like that is going to have a very, very, very long negative effect.
All right, Mr. Olufumilayo, now talking about, this age limit issue, are there challenges that I'm talking about, in future, potential challenges or even benefits of enforcing the age restriction for WASC and NECO exams, while also allowing flexibility for exceptional students?
Yes. In education goes by pursuit with age. Okay, You can be exceptionally gifted, you can be smart, and but you're not the right age for that class. You know, it happens every time. That's why you can't expect a 14-year-old, even though you're very smart, to be in university. You know, you should attain a particular age so you'll be able to economically, socially, mentally cope with the demands of that kind of education. Okay, education is not just about mental education, physical education, social education. You have to go all around to have it. So that's why I said this rot has happened a long time ago. You know, where we have schools giving students what do you call it again? Accelerated promotions. You know, where we don't really look at the age boundaries for entering secondary school. You know, if I've had all this, and I've maintained all this from scratch, wouldn't have this problem down the line. So yes, age and education, very, very important. They go pari passu. So that's why you have an age limit to get into school. But all the same, we have extremely gifted people. That's a different case. That's for extremely gifted people. But for regular people, for average people, for just brilliant students, yes, it's important down the line. Because sometimes you find out that when you have a 15-year-old in university, most of the time they can't flow with what comes with that kind of education, the freedom, you know, the kind of teaching and all that. So it will definitely affect the child later on in life. So I understand why the government wants to do this, but they have to give us a larger threshold so they reduce the impact on both parents and students.
All right, now let's quickly digress a bit on how you think the government's stance on fake university degrees would affect Nigerian students studying abroad, and also if there are steps that can be taken to protect the integrity of these international qualifications.
Oh, yes. In that's a two-way thing. First and foremost, I think, you know, the test for education is extreme for Nigerians. Two things. We have to make students understand that, yes, to have a tertiary degree is very important, but not everybody wants a BTech, everybody wants a university degree. We have polytechnics that give you fantastic degrees and all that. So down the line, but when people don't respect them in workplaces, or when there are discrepancies in leveling and all that, everybody just wants to have a university degree. And that's a good thing, though. And if you want to have a university degree outside the country, that's a good thing. But like every other country does, we just need to certify any degree that's coming from outside the country. Even degrees coming from inside the country needs to be certified, because anybody can go anywhere and pick it. And what happens is you see people who have not even gone to school, bring those degrees, look for work in Nigeria and have work, then we have a very weak workforce, which is right now, you know, you employ people, you have very fantastic what's it called, degrees, first class, 2 1s, and they can't even just write a basic employment letter. You know, they can't even just answer basic questions in the interview process. So I like the fact that they did that, and I like them to spread the net, not just one country. I would like them to spread the net. Let's have an exchange body that can actually verify these results, both internal and external, and we'll be surprised what we get. But it's a very nice thing and very laudable.
Okay.
I think we just expand the nets, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Olufomilayo, for speaking to us.
Thank you, madam.
Moving away from that, the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency has arrested 6 drug lords from Adamawa, Anambra, and Lagos states, as well as Cameroon, and demolished 2 significant cross-border trafficking syndicates. Now, according to a statement released on Sunday by the NDLEA spokesperson, Femi Babafemi, the group had been under the agency's surveillance for months, several months, as they were major suppliers of drugs to terrorist groups operating in Nigeria and Cameroon. Ibrahim Bawuro, Najib Ibrahim, Ibrahim Umar, Nelson Anayo, Eze Martin, and Adejumo Ishola are among the syndicate leaders who have been detained. In an effort to combat the growing menace of drug abuse in Nigeria, stakeholders have called for mass public enlightenment campaigns aimed at reaching young citizens from an early age. This was made during a sensitization and awareness campaign on the dangers of hard drugs and substance abuse held at the government secondary school in Wuse in Nigeria's federal capital, Abuja. Our correspondent Joshua Marai brings us more details in this report.
A 2018 survey by the Nigerian Drug Law Enforcement Agency revealed that around 14.3 million Nigerians are affected by drug abuse, with most abusers aged between 15 and 64 years. The agency also noted a growing number of women involved in substance abuse. In response to this alarming trend, the National Coordinator of the Youth Volunteer Society of Nigeria, during a sensitization and awareness campaign on the dangers of drug abuse in Abuja, called on stakeholders at all levels to unite in the fight against the growing trend, which he referred to as the cancer of drug abuse.
The pathetic situation of hard drugs and substance abuse is alarming. This is the main reason we came out to intervene by educating our children and vulnerable youth on effects of hard drugs and substance abuse. We want to use this medium to appeal to public-spirited individuals, corporate organizations, NGOs, government at all levels to assist in taking this sensitization and awareness to urban and rural areas of Nigeria.
They also called on young citizens to avoid environments that could lead to substance misuse.
Avoid places where drugs are used. Where they normally say drug, you stay away from it. Please, do not test drug and do not experiment on drug. Whenever you see people abusing drug, it's either you report to teachers, report to your guidance, or law enforcement.
The best way to avoid the effect of drug abuse is to avoid drug at all. Do whatever you can do within your means to avoid taking drugs. Please, I'm talking to you as your friend.
As highlighted in the campaign, experts here say that it is crucial for individuals, communities and stakeholders to work together to tackle the menace of drug abuse. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imarai.
Welcome back. Now in Mali, 3 expatriate executives from Australian mining company Resolute Mining have been detained for questioning, according to a company executive who spoke on condition of anonymity. The executives are reportedly under investigation on suspicions of providing false information and misappropriating public assets. Resolute Mining, which holds an 80% stake in the Siama gold mine in northwestern Mali, operates alongside the Malian government, which owns the remaining 20%. In addition to its operations in Mali, Resolute owns a gold production site in Mako, Senegal, and conducts exploration activities across Mali, Senegal, and Guinea. This marks the second instance in just over a month in which employees of a foreign mining company have been detained in Mali as the country's military junta pushes for tighter control over the lucrative mining sector. Rescue workers have recovered 12 bodies following 2 devastating landslides that buried a road in the west of Cameroon. Now, according to West Region Governor Augustine Awafonka, the likelihood of finding survivors has diminished, though he confirmed that the search for additional bodies is still underway, with dozens more people reported missing. The landslide struck the Chang Cliff Road on Tuesday, with a second slide occurring as emergency workers attempted to clear the routes using heavy machinery. Cameroon's roads are notoriously hazardous. Recent World Health Organization data shows that the country records nearly 3,000 traffic-related fatalities annually, translating to more than 10 deaths per 100,000 inhabitants. Just 2 months ago, a tragic accident in the same region saw a tractor-trailer plunge off a cliff near Chiang, resulting in 8 deaths and 62 injuries, including children. Now let's head to Mauritius now, where voters turned out early on Sunday to cast their ballots in a tightly contested parliamentary election with a strong police presence at polling stations amid opposition warnings about potential fraud. The election comes on the heels of a historic agreement in which Britain ceded sovereignty of the Chagos Island to Mauritius, marking a major milestone after decades of dispute. Prime Minister Pravin Jugnauth, who had anticipated a boost from the Chagos deal, faced a setback when leaked recordings of politicians, diplomats and journalists emerged online last month, sparking a political scandal. In response, authorities initially imposed a social media blackout to limit the fallout, but were focused to reverse the decision after facing intense backlash from opposition parties and the press. The incident has fueled concerns over what some critics describe as a decline in Mauritius's long-standing democratic values and civil liberties. In other news from around the world, EU Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell reaffirmed unwavering support for Ukraine during a visit to Kyiv on Saturday, marking the first high-level EU visit following Donald Trump's U.S. election victory. Borrell's visit comes amid concerns across Europe and Ukraine that Trump's administration could reduce or end Washington's extensive military and financial aid for Kyiv's defense against Russia's invasion. Now, during his campaign, Trump questioned the continuation of significant U.S. support to Ukraine and suggested he might negotiate a rapid settlement to end the conflict. Since Russia's invasion in 2022, European nations have collectively contributed approximately $125 billion in support of Ukraine, while the U.S. has provided over $90 billion, according to data from the Kiel Institute.
The clear purpose of this visit is to stress the European Union support to Ukraine. This support remains unwavering. This support is absolutely needed for you to continue defending yourself against Russian aggression. We have to do more and faster. More military support, more training capacities, more money, faster supplies, and also the permission to strike the enemy on their military targets on its territory. It's not enough to stop the arrow. You have to attack the Arcus.
Україна збільшила оборонне виробництво у 6 разів з початку повномасштабної війни, і наш пріоритет – виробництво дронів та далекобійної зброї, зокрема балістичних ракет. Закликаємо Євросоюз та держави Євросоюзу до збільшення інвестицій в український оборонний сектор, бо це інвестиція в загальну європейську безпеку.
In Valencia, tens of thousands took to the streets Saturday to protest against the government's response to last month's catastrophic floods, the deadliest in decades. Demonstrators, some chanting murderers and holding signs criticizing both Valencia's regional president and Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez, expressed frustration over the authorities' handling of the disaster. Now, the floods, which claimed the lives of at least 220 people and left towns covered in mud, have sparked anger among residents. Many are particularly upset about the delayed warnings, with some noting that official alerts only reached their phones after cars were already being swept away by flood waters. In business, as the global economic landscape continues to evolve, Africa's relationship with the United States is poised for significant changes. Now, President-elect Donald Trump's economic policies have sparked intense debate, raising questions about their potential impact on Africa's economy, trade, and investment. News Central correspondent Juliet Rowland's report is voiced from our studios.
The emergence of Donald Trump as the 47th President of the United States of America has sparked debates over what his economic policies towards Africa will be and what impact they will have on the continent's economy and trade. The Make America Great Again slogan and promised tariff hikes remain a source of worry among African policymakers who fear potential disruptions to global trade and supply chains could result in higher export costs.
What the idea of about a 20% tariff on all goods coming into the U.S. That could be up to 60% or more on goods coming into China. Now, there is no economist in the world that thinks that this is a good idea.
Africa has remained a battleground. It has been more like a ground where all these developed nations are actually struggling to get a piece of the cake. So I don't think America want to actually toy with that by actually sacrificing the presence in Africa or trade opportunity with Africa.
This also brings to focus the African Growth and Opportunity Act AGOA trade deal, which, though is set for renewal after a possible review, has been criticized for benefiting the U.S. more than Africa. Some analysts argue that the agreement perpetuates unequal trade relationships, with Africa primarily exporting raw materials and importing manufactured goods.
It's not just about the African country that he will renew that or not. But I think Trump is mostly American first before any other nation. So definitely if that policy favor America, he would definitely renew it.
For me, I think it's a win for US than Africa. So if President Trump not decided to actually get in that, I think that it means that you are throwing your meal for other global player to actually eat, and I don't think we want to do that.
Africa's primary exports to the U.S. include energy resources, minerals, and agricultural products. These exports may be affected by Trump's tariff policies, which may lead to reduced demand if amended.
Ethiopia has coffee, and Nigeria has cashew nuts. Nigeria has many other things like that we actually export to America. You have chemicals like precious metals, and these are more like natural resources that are being exported. We have steel that we actually export to United States. We have cottons, and these are some of the things that are being exported. And sincerely speaking, like I've always mentioned, that it's not a good deal for Nigeria, because imagine Nigeria exporting cotton, and at the end of the day, we will end up actually bringing in fabrics into the country.
As speculations become rife about what economic stance the Trump administration will take, African countries may need to take proactive steps to navigate potential impacts. This may include economic diversification, enhanced productivity, and the strengthening of regional trade.
In the world of sports, Mark Cavendish sprinted to one last victory on Sunday as he took the Tour de France Singapore Criterium in a signature surge to the line. The 39-year-old cycling great, who announced his retirement through his social media handle on Saturday, was very emotional after the win, and he stated that he really wanted to win so bad, as it was the last time he will do so in his illustrious 19-year career. The 25-lap victory marked the Briton 166th career win, and he intends to stay involved with cycling.
I'm quite emotional, actually. I realised in the last 5 laps was the last 15 kilometres of my career, and I could pass the Flamme Rouge for the last time in my career, and I felt that. But I was so on the limit. The heat here is not nice for me, you know. I didn't race since the Tour de France, so I'm missing that sharpness. Actually, I have to say I was nervous about crashing or something if I fight, you know. Not because anything wrong, but I really wanted to finish at least my last race. But I really wanted that so bad, and I'm so proud to win the Tour de France Prudential Singapore Criterium.
And that's all at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of our top stories. We told you that IGP deploys specialized police units, bans local security outfits for Ondo governorship election. We also told you that rescue workers recovered 12 bodies, dozens still missing after devastating landslides in Cameroon. Finally, you heard that voters cast ballots in tightly contested parliamentary election in Mauritius. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Dashen, Usman.